Smoking a big cigar tonight because we had a big result last night. UFC Vegas 49, Islam Makhachev taking on Bobby Green. One of these Fight Night Vegas cards, once again, that has mixed level of competition. You know, not the highest level of fighters on this card, but a pretty awesome main event, although it was a short notice replacement fight. Very exciting night of fights. Even the lower level competitors put on amazing fights. Very, very close contested fights. I mean, it was fun going over MMA Twitter and just looking at all of the different arguments, people ragging on the judges, and I think they were warranted to do so in a lot of spots here. But managed to come out with an amazing, amazing profit, even more than last week, which is a great result. I'm going to go over a little bit more in depth of the betting strategy I used for this one because I've got mixed feelings about it. It kind of goes against my moral compass as a bettor in some ways because I incorporated a lot of parlays that paid out big, but, you know, there was some inherent risk in this. Now, I only had a few fighters on this card that I thought, you know, just should go in there and definitely win the fight, even more than the odds suggested they should. Fighters like, I put my best bets, Jonathan Martinez, I was very, very strong and confident on him. Ramiz Brahimaj, very confident on him as well. Obviously, Islam Makhachev, you know, although he was, when I placed the bet, he was minus 750 favorite. Of course, we should be confident in him. You know, I took the underdog shot on Joel Alvarez, which did not come through, but that was a nice underdog pick that I will go into if I regret some of these or not. I was also very keen on Bahamondes, Josiane Nunes, and Gregory Rodriguez as well. So basically what I did was I set up sort of a progressive parlay out of 7 fighters that I thought were very, very likely to win their fights. They were pretty much the fighters I just outlined a minute ago. Now, not all of them came through, but the ones that came through are actually on our top parlay tickets, and I'll kind of get into what I mean by that and how I, going through these results, I really want to try to reinforce the fact that parlays are kind of a long-term betting strategy, in my opinion. And what I mean by that, I know that Vegas is basically built on parlays because you're taking, when you parlay 2 fighters, we go through weeks and hours of tape study on a fighter, looking at the statistics to try to get an edge over the bookie on a money line pick. So, you know, if I think fighter A has, you know, a 75% chance to win, but it's priced 50-50, you know, I'm going to take that bet on the money line. Now, when you attach a parlay piece to that, another fighter that is not correlated to that number that you just got an edge on, you know, now you've kind of just undone a lot of your hard work, in my opinion. But the result can be very, very little risk with a big reward in some cases. So that's the route that I chose. I'm going to outline on the screen kind of the layout of the pyramid that I put. I was riding high off of the Bellator Ireland card because I got some pretty good profit on that. So I was kind of a little bit more generous on my top ticket. And my top ticket was Islam Makhachev at minus 750, Ramiz Brahimaj at minus 370, and Jonathan Martinez minus 230. It was a 3-leg parlay to pay out close to even money. I think it was like plus 110 is what that paid out. I put 10 units on that 3-leg parlay. So basically at plus 110, that would give you 11 unit payout. And luckily we nailed that top ticket. Now then on the next ticket, I added Ignacio Bahamondes, who I felt strongly about at minus 235. This is going to be very number heavy. I'll put it on the screen. And I put 5 units on that, only 5 units. So half the amount I put on the top ticket, I put on the second at 5 units. That was at plus 194, so almost 2-to-1 odds. That also cashed, netting, you know, 9.7 units just on that ticket alone, 11 on the top. So we're already at 20 units basically on that. I actually ended up putting Josiane Nunes at minus 220 for now. I have to, again, 2.5 units on her. For like 3-to-1 odds, right? So now we're looking at something like 8 units thereabout for that. Going on, my next confident pick, my 6th confident fighter on this card was Gregory Rodriguez, who ended up not coming through. Although I felt very strongly about that decision. I thought he might have won that fight. Again, I was hanging out with friends, so I'm not scoring this like a judge. I have to go rewatch that fight to see my true opinion on that. Close fight, definitely. But at minus 170, I put 1 unit on him since we're getting kind of heavy on a 6-leg parlay here. That would have netted 6-to-1 odds. Did not come through. My 7th most confident pick was the underdog I put at the bottom, just to juice up underdog numbers at plus 195. That was half a unit on that. So that also did not come through, but that would have been like 20-to-1 odds or thereabouts. So if you look at how we kind of structure this progressive parlay, it's your top line, your top ticket is going to be, you know, most of your money is going to go on that. Who you feel the most strongly about. it's very, very risky because if one of these guys slips on a banana peel and fails, now all of your units just come crashing down. So it's kind of a high risk, high reward type of betting. I only do this on certain cards. Like we had a giant favorite of Islam Makhachev. By the time the fight closed, he was like a minus 900 favorite. So by attaching him to the top, I was able to, if my parlays were live and I had a lot of profit if he won, I could put money on his opponent at a plus 600 underdog price on Bobby Green. Again, if you're following the numbers, I'll put it on the screen to kind of show what I did here. Now, I also did put money on the props. I put a little bit of change on the props that I put out on my best bets. Those were 3-time props. The over 1.5 for Wellington Turman and Misha Serkinov did not cash at minus 170, so that was a loss of 1.7 units. The over 1.5 for Josiane Nunes and Ramona Pascal. Like I said, I thought that was a steal for over 1.5 in a women's fight. Man, right around that that early second round, I mean, Nunes almost had her out of there, so that was actually kind of a sweat, but still got it plus 1 unit on that because I put 1.35 units on it. The over 2.5 for Green and Makhachev. Obviously, Makhachev just made quick work of Bobby Green, so that was a unit loss as well. So minus 1.7 units on the props, but that pales in comparison to the what do we got? 27.4 units we got on the parlay, the progressive parlay. So, and then there was a minus 4 unit hedge at the end of the night that I put on Bobby Green just to guarantee some sort of profit since we were so far ahead. So that ended up with 21.7 units as our final profit for UFC Vegas 49. I had to take a little puff of that celebratory cigar after hearing that number. 21.7 units. I mean, now, granted, there were some strong reads here, some strong, confident fighters that I put a lot of faith in. 10 units on a top parlay is kind of ridiculous. When I say units, I'm talking about 1%. For me, it's 1% of my betting bankroll. The money I have allocated to bet with, I take 1% of that and call it 1 unit, right? Usually people talk about units between 1 and 3% of their betting bankroll. So some people are on the crazy, like the 3% edge of things. I'm on the 1% edge. I like to go a little bit smaller with my shot selection here. It was kind of a high risk, high reward, but I don't play every single card like this. Like I said, only because we had such a heavy favorite in our main event and so few fighters that I had a strong lean on, did I play the parlay game like this. But basically, if you look at the numbers on the screen, I'll put on the in the corner here. If you get that first ticket of Islam Makhachev, Ramis Brahimaj, and Jonathan Martinez, again, 3 fighters that we were the most confident in. If you get that parlay, you're going to guarantee profit for the rest of the line. Even if Bahamundes loses, Nunes loses, Rodriguez, Alvarez, they lost, you still would guarantee profit because you'd be getting 11 units and you've only bet the rest. You've bet a total of, what do we have, 5, 7.5. So you've got nine units there that you would have lost, right? So you're still guaranteeing a unit of profit on that, 2 units of profit on that top ticket. Now, if you ended up, we get lucky and Bahamundes comes through like you did on our second line, now you're adding another 9.7 units of profit, and then if the rest of the card falls apart, now you're coming out even more profitable. So that's kind of how I stacked this. Again, it's very number heavy. This is kind of a beginner lesson on progressive parlay betting, which this is where I mentioned at the beginning of the video. I've got kind of a moral dilemma with how I got such a good success on last night's card. It's because this could have, if Ramis Brahimaj early on in the night just, somehow lost that fight to Michael Gilmore, he would have ended up just costing us, we're looking at, what do we have here? We're looking at close to 15 units of profit he would have cost us. That would have been devastating. But like I said, I did pretty good on Bellator the night before, so why not have a little bit of fun? I felt very strongly that Ramis Brahimaj was going to win this fight, very strongly, because I thought it was a mismatch. Even though it's Ramis Brahimaj, we've got a mismatch of an opponent that I thought was not even UFC caliber, who's lost to Ramis's submission game. He's lost by submission his entire career. Ramis is very good when he can get fighters to the ground and employ his BJJ, and he did just that in 2 minutes. So he looked. That's how a minus 370 favorite should look. It should take 2 minutes, and he should cut through his opponent. So he did just that. Martinez, that was a closer fight against Alex Perez, but I thought Jonathan Martinez is way better on the feet going into this fight. I thought he was a much larger man going into this fight. And since he just came from fighting a grapple-heavy Russian in his last fight and had great success stuffing all the takedowns, I felt very, very strongly about him. So I put him on the top ticket and invested heavily in him. Islam Makhachev is Islam Makhachev. He's a monster taking on a short notice, unranked fighter on 10 days notice. So I've got a lot of faith in him. So that's why I was able to choose those three and heavily invest 10 units on that parlay, because we don't get this type of card very often. A lot of these fights, like next week, we're going to have very, very close contested fights on the pay-per-view card next week. You're not going to be able to run this type of strategy every single time, but when you have a card that comes along every so often, you have these three fighters, maybe 4 or 5 that you think are just like, it's almost like a mismatch. Then you can kind of employ this game, and that's how I play it. So then I have props and other bets that I might throw in to kind of like, soften the blow if that parlay falls apart. So like I said, again, though, it's hard for me to advise people that are starting sports betting to kind of rely on parlays as your way to make money, because night to night, you might lose a lot of money. But as a long-term bettor over 6 months, a year, you're going to end up, say you lose a progressive parlay like this three weeks in a row, right? Say you're down, say you're down 5 units 1 week, 5 units the next, a total of 15 units in 3 weeks of like a horrible losing streak. Then you come back in your fourth and you hit kind of a night like tonight where you're up 20 some units. Now that's profitable over a month's time, right? So that's kind of I'm not a full-time sports gambler, obviously. This is kind of for fun, kind of just a side hobby. I love mixed martial arts. I'll have fun no matter what. But as a betting strategy, if I see a card where I've got very, very mismatched fights and confident fighters, I'll employ this game plan. And with that giant favorite in the main event, Islam Makhachev, the fact that we get plus 600 odds, just throwing a few units on Bobby Green, I was able to watch the main event without breaking a sweat. I was able to know that I'm walking out with a lot of money either way. So some of these fights played out a lot closer than he would have liked, like Jonathan Martinez. I mean, that was a 29-28 decision. I could have seen it 3 rounds to 0, but the judges were, kind of favoring the bigger moments last night, kind of like the Priscilla Cachoeira Ji Yoon Kim fight. Like, that's kind of what I mentioned in my video. I chose Ji Yoon Kim to win the fight, but I said in my breakdown, it's going to be either the number of total strikes from Kim versus the judges seeing the bigger shots of Priscilla Cachoeira. So even though her face was basically a catcher's mitt for punches last night, she still won the fight. So that's why she was nowhere to be found on this progressive parlay. So you gotta pick your spots when you do parlays. You gotta be very, very, very confident in it. But I still do believe that it's a dangerous game, and you kind of undo all of the hard work as a sharp bettor that you do when you do hit parlays. So this was kind of a long-winded recap, not so much on the fights, but kind of on just betting philosophy in general that I'm going to employ in the future. So when I put out some of these best bets and picks videos at the end of the week before the fight night, those are spots that I think anybody can put their money on in a vacuum. You can put your money on these props. I think there's value on them. The money line picks, the underdog picks, there's value in them alone. I'm not recommending that anybody go out and start parlaying a bunch of fighters together. It gets kind of messy and you end up losing sight of all of the handicapping that you've done throughout the week. But I will share and I will be transparent about when I do these progressive parlays, whether it's win or lose. I'll let you know if it's an embarrassing loss, which does happen quite often. But that's just a quick or not so quick recap of UFC Vegas 49. Great result, 21.7 units net profit on the night. So ready to dive right back in. Whether this win streak will come to an end at some point, but we're on like a four-week profit streak right now. So let's keep it going for next week. Big pay-per-view card, and yeah, we'll see you guys next time.